Can you hear me?
Okay, I need to shut off my Apple Music. Like Beyonce is playing right now.
That hole is gone, and I would believe that so much. Like I had to fill the hole.
You never learn to self-regulate because it's been like spiritualized into sin.
What if I'm at school and they get the call and I'm left behind?
Yep, you and me both, sister. The True Womanhood, seriously, we read it and we were like, this is way worse than we thought it would be.
It's not selfish to love yourself, because if you don't, how are you gonna love other people? Like you are important, and I'm still like learning that.
Oh, meat suits, huh? Welcome to this Apostate Sisters interview series. I'm Patty, and I sit down with courageous people who've walked away from high control environments, whether religious, ideological, or institutional. Together, we explore their stories of deconstruction, discuss personal autonomy, and expose the impact of coercive power dynamics. Most importantly, my guests will remind us that no one has to walk this path alone. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Roberta, a woman who grew up in the worldwide Church of God, the same doomsday cult that I was raised in. Roberta has a powerful story that may be hard to listen to. A story that was steeped in abuse and fear at the hands of those who claim to speak for the great Almighty Father God. In our conversation, we'll dive into obedience, rebellion, and Roberta's journey back toward loving and trusting herself. I'm so glad that Roberta is here today to bring into the light the harm that was done in darkness. Let's meet Roberta. Help the sisters keep this healing content coming. Like, subscribe, and comment. Drop some dollars or support us by becoming a channel member or patron for extra perks.
Are we gonna do the mirror, the romper room?
I can get it. It's right here. I'm going to do it. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Romper, bumper, stomper, boo. Tell me, do. I see Roberta is here for an interview today. Hi, Roberta. Welcome.
Hi.
I'm so glad you reminded me of that.
Well, I've been telling my mom about you, and I'm like, she does this thing, and it was like, I'm gonna try to get her to do it.
You succeeded. I'm so thrilled that like you're in a good place and I'm in a good place and we can have this conversation today. Because you grew up in the same church that I did, and that was the Worldwide Church of God. So I'm curious to know, I think I know how it happened, but if you could tell all of our listeners how it was that you came to be in the doomsday cult of the Worldwide Church of God.
I was born into it, 1976 till, and I left in 94. But my mom, I'm a third generation because my grandma subscribed to the Plain Truth, the Radio Church of God, and then my mom was about four years old, and then she had my mom listening to it, and there wasn't a local church around. Like there was doubts, like, does this even exist in real life, you know? But then because the people thought Garner Ted, like she got there because Garner Ted was also on the radio later on. And people at school thought he was an idiot, like the way he talked. And they like, and my mom's like, she's not gonna reveal that they listened to that. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
really?
a big joke, like, because GTA is a joke. Sorry, Garner Ted's a, they all are, but he, you know how like charismatic he was and over. I mean, just look at him, like his whole style.
Oh, yeah, he was like ladies' man of the time. I mean, I was not around for the Garner Ted era, but I'm pretty sure it could have contributed to my mother's interest in the church, if I'm being honest, as she was like, ooh.
He
Um,
had the TV personality, and that's why
mhm.
that is the reason.
Yeah, well, and they made a big damn deal of him. Like there was a whole thing where he would like come with his airplane and do a flyby of the Feast of Tabernacles events. I mean, they made him quite this
The celebrity.
fancy. Yeah, great. Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, and then eventually, my mom met my dad, and he was in it too. And my
Okay.
mom made a big
Mm.
decision when she committed. She broke up with her Catholic boyfriend, and they really cared for each other, but you have to be with your own. Um, and so then my dad and her started dating, and they were being counseled, and there was already abuse going on before they got married. Somehow, this is insane, found out they had premarital sex. Someone snitched on them. Like they just read the room and they're like, hmm. And then all of a sudden, my parents are not allowed to marry at the venue that was okayed by the church. They had to get married in a friend's home, all because they knew about their sexual life, which that's crazy. It was like
Oh,
on display. Like it's such a sexual cult, in my opinion.
yeah. Weird, like the weird cognitive dissonance around sexualness.
And even the minister, because the cult was set up for the man, everything to please the man. And if you're running it and you're a pedophile, like, where do you think it's going to go? It's going to be twisted and it's going to put females and children in. It's just a dangerous recipe. And so, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the minister that was counseling my mom and dad was really focused on the physical aspect. He's like, well, my wife wears hot pants, she knows how to keep me going under her dress. And that was like a big priority. Like you have to please your man and and look the part. I mean, they had that 50s, I don't even know what it's called, but a handbook about put a ribbon in your hair when he comes home, freshen up and don't ask him too many pressing questions. Because he can't handle talking about, both things at once. You just let him, yeah. So that's how I was raised.
Oof. But that was how your mom was raised too, in the earlier, like potentially
Well,
more stringent parts of the church. Like, would you say that?
no,
No?
because my grandpa was not a member. He was not,
Okay.
he didn't buy it. It was like bullshit. Um, my mom had a brother, my uncle, and he's like, "You want to go to town?" He's like, "Hell, like, yeah, I don't want to sit here and listen to the radio." And my mom, I feel like, gravitated to my grandma and just wanted to please my grandma.
Mhm.
But so that was what was refreshing because my grandpa always, he would call the National Enquirer his Bible. He was of the world. He smoked. Um, we sometimes had pepperoni, or they take off the pepperoni on the pizza, but we would have marshmallow. He was fun. So I had a taste of that. But in the beginning, the first 5 years of my life, I didn't see them, and I call it hell. Um, just be me and my dad and my mom and my siblings. I have three siblings. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Um, there's so much abuse. Um, and I witnessed a lot. Um, yeah, so I guess I don't even know how to
That's
start
okay.
that.
Let's just breathe for a second. All good. All good. I can tell you're really activated. Totally okay. Totally understandable. Okay, so I'll just kind of recap where we're at. Okay, so you are saying that your mom was sort of half raised in it because her mother was in it. But then when your
Mm.
mom was like of marriageable age, she had clearly absorbed some of this church indoctrination and so did decide to marry someone from the church as was like told to them they had to. However, it sounds like she also had that indoctrination to be a pleaser,
Hmm.
and you're mentioning that there was a lot of abuse in your first 5 years. So
Yes.
so in those 5 years, am I given to understand that your parents knocked out four kids real quick in that time?
Hmm.
Okay, so you're 5 years old. You're the big sister to three other siblings. I understand that. I'm that same thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
guess I
what?
wanted to say,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. I just want to mention the pastor that was counseling. He really had my grandpa, who wasn't in the church, like really like thinking this is a great union, even though my dad was slamming his fist on the table before, like he didn't care. Like usually you try to like win over your in-laws, but I don't know, this minister knew how to redirect him, and it was just crazy. And my great grandpa said he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He
Oh,
saw right through Bob. Bob is my dad.
okay.
But you know, the pressure of the cult just, you know, they went ahead because my mom believed that it would all work out because they're in the cult. And she said she actually felt sorry for my dad, not really love him, but it would all work out, you know.
Okay, okay. So the slamming the desk was your dad's kind of his tell that he had just a violent
Yeah.
nature already. Okay, I see. I see. So if you were to bring up an event or something that you recall from that 5 years that maybe was a pivotal thing for you,
Um,
what experience would you describe?
I guess I remember the physical abuse of my mom and the spankings that we all received and the emotional abuse. Um, there is my mom acts just like in the kitchen, a lot of shit happened. It seemed like that was like the pressure cooker because he'd bang on the table after work and just say he doesn't get any credit. And then I don't know. He slammed my what are the things that come out. He like slammed my mother against the ceiling or the glass door. Um, I remember he had us licking our plates clean, and he said put them in the cupboards. And I was just thinking in my brain, like, they're not really clean, but it was, we had to do it. Because we would have big consequences if we didn't. So we were just, I don't remember crying. And when I did, I was a baby. You don't want to be a baby for the rest of your life. I
Oh,
always remember having a lump in my throat. Um, and what's surprising is that, so he'd come home with alcohol and then he wanted to get some more, but he's too drunk to drive. And this is like late in the evening where all of us are in bed. I mean, like I don't know when it started, but like think of like five, three, one, and a baby,
yeah.
these kids. And I asked my mom, did we like fuss and cry? Like, cause like normally if I woke up my daughter when she was that little, you know, no, it was complete silence. Like we knew it was insane. And we would go for drives to get the liquor, but he never wanted to go home. And we would sometimes go by houses and he would have us peeking in the windows of them
What?
and to say, oh, there's the devils in there. They have demons. He was very all about demons. And it was all at night in the country in Wisconsin. I was born in Ashland, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And I remember the night we left, it was um see being older, I saw through some of it even though I was really little. I thought of the logical things because if they're abusing each other, like what about us, our safety? So we're in the car after one of the liquor runs and he didn't like something about what my mom was doing. He was in back seat behind the driver's seat where she was driving. and he just started yanking on her hair. And I'm like thinking, how is she gonna drive? Because like that would hurt. And like, I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna run off the road. Because that's what I thought. Because and then I did the next thing it's really foggy, but she stopped the car in the woods. Like, excuse me, Wisconsin has a place called the Barrens where it's very full of woods and northern Wisconsin stuff. And that was scary in itself, just being isolated and not in the town. I don't know, it was just something about it. So she got out of the car and she left it in drive. And again, I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna roll off a cliff, which was only a ditch, but like it's out of control. And I thinking about my brothers and sister, like, so I think my dad got in and put it in the park, and she ran to a house to get out of it. And the whole time she was like thinking he was behind her, because he had been pulling her hair.
Yeah.
Um, and so we were just sitting there and not gonna cry about that. Like you can't show any of that. So I think he was trying to decide if he should go in. And my little brother was a baby at that time, the youngest. And so I remember holding the baby and walking, and I felt really proud because he made a big deal about me being the oldest, and I have his name practically,
Oh.
Robert and Roberta. So I just remember holding my brother, getting into the house, and it was like a family with a mother, and then her parents were there,
Hmm.
and the grandma. She's like, then I think Bob took the baby from me again. And she yelled at him. She said, "Give me that baby," because he wasn't propping his head up right. And she made all of us go into the living room. I remember getting cookies, and that grandpa stood up to my dad. He's like,
And this
"Please
is
will
a
call."
random house, like totally random in the woods house. Okay. Whoa.
And it was scary because nobody stood up to my dad. And I would always look at his face. His face would get super red. I knew when he was going to get mad. And the grandpa, ah, what a blessing or whatever you call it. Like he didn't give a fuck. He's like something about a mother and her children, and he's acting like an ass. He stood up to him, and Bob eventually went home, and we went
Oh.
into a safe house, and then we moved to Minnesota to live with my grandparents. But the thing about it is that none of this was explained to us. I just was a witness. I wasn't sat down because um I I knew it was wrong, but I'm 5,
Right.
and I am protective of my siblings, and I just remember on the way to my grandma's, looking up in the sky in the backseat, like what is going on? Like I have no idea what's going on because we left so fast because we got in a Greyhound. My mom was freaking out that my dad would come and try to stop us. So it was like boom, 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 boom. It really was an escape.
Do you think that was your mom's intention that day? Was to get away from him? No. Okay.
She had thought about leaving before, and then she never did. She says it was an act of God or nature that she snapped. She snapped.
Well,
Um,
I just it's like striking me that with all of these interviews we've done with people, especially from the WCG, it
mhm,
seems like it wasn't like the church said to abuse, but it was like well, okay, yeah, you might have more to say about that, but it was like, in at least what I've seen, if that proclivity was there or whatever, like, unhealed traumas causing harm, it was
mhm.
like the church gave it a pass and it amplified somehow. How do you
It did.
see that?
I completely agree. Because it's like I dealt with all that and I didn't even think about the cult until like, I can actually digest it and like there was two forces going on.
Mm.
Not my dad's mental illness, his alcoholism, but then he is being literally given the go ahead to do this shit because all the rules, like there was literally a sermon that talked about if your wife got out of line, you spank her. That was okay. And Bob like ran with it. I feel like other areas, but my area had was actually pretty strict. And even my mom said that we that chest thing to increase your butt. Remember? I don't know if you know back in the day, it's like this wiry thing and you stretch. It's for exercise like chest. And they would tell women do that to increase your breast size.
Oh my
Uh,
God, what?
and I just remember um so and like drinking, it's okay to drink, but that's a hard thing to follow and regulate because a lot of people got drunk and being on alcoholic wasn't that uncommon. One of our preachers got a DUI, so it's just like don't drink, or you drink because Jesus drank in moderation, and that's it. So you can run with that one.
That one, the alcohol piece. I think before our age, like I think, the church of like the 60s and
Hmm.
early 70s, maybe, the way it operated then, they were like super pro alcohol. And I think it was only by the time our age came around in like, the 80s, like yeah, kind of the 80s time, that they had kind of backed off from that because I think they fucked around and found out, because somebody made a comment to say that every WCG event they went to was like an absolute booze fest and that
Hmm.
grasshoppers were popular. I was like, are you serious? So so they seemingly they really relied on it, but I think it's because Armstrong had this like, Mad Men, like he sort of
Hmm.
glamorized like the office guy, and all the men would carry briefcases to services and shit like that.
Oh, that
Like,
was so funny.
right? Like I just think he idolized it and that culture, that subculture in our American history, like it kind of it promoted a little too much drinking and that's not
Oh
big.
yeah, they're drinking like at 8 in the morning. Well, we need to have a meeting. I think, yeah, definitely. And my mom said we were told like at the feast from the pulpit, like we usually went to the Dells, hide your bottles, put them in a separate bag so housekeeping doesn't see them because we want to like, not show, we want to maintain our image. So we had to literally make an attempt to not leave bottles out when the maids came in. Like we had to, yeah, it was a whole thing. But go ahead and drink, just hide it, basically.
That is so messed up. I don't remember that, but again, I feel like by a
But
little later they weren't saying it quite like that. Wow.
yeah, um and I remember the feasts with my dad were scary. I remember one time it was storming out and our hotel door was rattling because we were like facing outside. And I don't know, I don't remember a lot, but I think a lot happened. Um, I don't know.
Mm,
Because I look at the pictures of that and all of us look terrified. Um, like, because
yeah.
we would have to go force smile all the time. Like our faces look ridiculous, but that's what the front my dad wanted to put on too.
Right. I mean, as you're saying, you were even afraid to cry when it was time for a kid to have good reason to cry.
Because the night after abuse, my dad went to work and my mom had to like provide a completely different environment because she's also reeling from the last night. So she just separated the two. Um, we won't, are not going to cry. She didn't want to see my tears because that was triggering. And we She taught us stuff. I had fun with my mom, but there's a picture of me in the living room watching for my dad to get off of work. As soon as he got off, it was like shut down and just shut up. And who not knowing, are we gonna eat on time? What's his mood gonna be like? Like, so
Oof.
because I knew like, yeah. And I remember one time, lying. I know lying was a big deal for
Mm-hmm.
children not to
For
do.
sure.
And one of the rides, I had to go to the bathroom, and we were just parked outside the house. And he's like, we're not going in. You can go behind the house. And now, so I peed all over myself. I've never been good at peeing outside. So then we decided to go in. He sees the back of my pants. He's like, you were lying. You already went in the car. And I don't even think I protested, but I'm thinking, I'm not a liar. I didn't lie. So he sat me down in the kitchen. He sat on a chair and just basically smacked my face back and forth until it caught my
Oh.
lip. And, you know, my mom was just too scared of him to even help me. I felt like she was just the older sister, like a teenager. And then later on that night, he was so drunk, like slumped over the stereo, and he's like, Roberta, come here, and like saying he was sorry. The next morning, um, oh, it's just, we put some wine on it. I don't know. I guess wine's supposed to heal a cut. I don't know. And it was just like, it didn't happen. Like, we're not going to talk about how it happened. And then there's one other time that's really significant. One time I liked having long hair, and he's like, I think we're gonna cut it. And he sat in the living room and cut me like a boy. And he said because it would keep me real. Um, it was
Oh.
just insane. So I had no choice, and it was horrible. And then so the next day, my mom had to go bring me to a salon to get it fixed, and people thought it was a boy. It was like it was really hard.
Why does
So
it
those
seem
are,
like everything they did was centered around let's make sure to take away their bodily autonomy, make sure they don't know that they don't get to make choices for themselves? Like, what the fuck?
yeah, I don't know. And like ever since, I don't know if that's the reason, but I have cut my hair a little bit, but I like it long. I was proud of my hair. That's like what part of my identity as a little kid? And it's just, yeah, just get rid of everything that would make you stand out as an individual.
Whew. And it's yours. My gosh. Okay. And so all of these things are your
Mhm.
memories from before age 5, before that night that your mom drove into the woods.
Yes. And there's more, but I'm not going to give you, it's just too much. But I witnessed how he treated my siblings. And when my brother was born, he was the first boy, and he would just prop him up on tractors, cars, and like be a man. And he's sorry, I'm trying to say his name. He's streaming with tears. I'm not crying. It's horrible. And he took so many Polaroids. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I witnessed my siblings, and I feel like I before I cried way more for them and my mom than myself because
Sure.
it really hurt me. Um,
Well, right. I mean, the whole thing was to get you to deny yourself in service to others. I mean, it was like an abusive way of turning us into people pleasers, in my opinion,
mhm,
especially as females, as girls. Wow. Ah.
yeah. So, I did like living at my grandparents because my grandpa stood up to him too. And
Hmm.
I felt safe. And my grandpa was like, here's the 20, like go to the store, get any cereal you want because, sugar was a sin.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. Like when I was little, I knew we had all the food rules, but my parents were so like health conscious on top of it, which wasn't like in the literature as far as I could tell. I
No,
thought
it was.
sugary cereals were against the religion.
Well, he had a whole diet, like
Really?
about, Yeah, we literally got unpasteurized milk from a cow from a farm, and it stank, and the cream rose up to the top. My dad loved it because he's from a farm. It's I bought my own milk at that point. And then they're so big into health, like carob instead of chocolates. Ah, wheat bread, and it has to be. My mom was very handmade. I never knew about Hamburger Helper, none of that. I feel she really did value that, but it was to an extreme. Like it's actually sinful to like I and I'm the one that has the most cavities. When my grandpa would bring sweets, like I couldn't stop myself. And when he brought the good peanut butter, not the natural where it separates. I'm eating spoonfuls of Skippy. I'm like, oh, I'm so deprived. I remember one of my friends too, her parents were even worse. And this poor girl, um, she was taking like cups of literal sugar. That's how much like they use honey for syrup. Everything that you thought would be good, it's a substitute for some like as a healthy substitute. It I'm like, oh my God, I thought I had it bad.
I mean, doesn't this just go to show like how easily you can control someone if you control their food? And it just sets you up for such struggles with it later because you never learn to self-regulate because it's been like spiritualized into sin. I mean, they had that from the get-go, right? With their rules around not eating pork and shellfish and all of that. But it's so bizarre that they took it even farther, seemingly just for the purpose of control. Though also, for so long, we weren't allowed to go to doctors, so maybe they had a vested interest in making sure people ate healthy, thinking they could avoid the negative press.
Well, I mean, Mr. Armstrong ate whatever he wanted when he had Dom, he was big. I read The Tangled Web by David Robinson. I haven't fully finished it, but he was like one of his right-hand men. And liquor is flowing, he eats whatever, and he's always out of the country, spreading the word, but he's actually just partying it up and
Hmm.
trying to get clout for himself. Yeah, it was extreme. And when you brought up the doctor, okay, so after we all left, my little brother got sick with spinal meningitis,
Ooh.
the Feast of Tabernacles. Like he stiffened up. It was horrible. And my mom didn't know whether to go to the feast. And my mom's like, that was insane. I should have went right to the hospital. But we had the cult fully believed everything what the cult said.
Hmm.
No, come on down. um, to the Dells and drive up to the administration building. And as we get out, our pastor, I mean, we're like 5'3", I don't know, like super little. And we're just doing normal kids shit, like running around because we've been sitting in the car. He's like, get a hold of your kids. During this crisis, when we're worried about my brother, so they said, you better take him in to the hospital
Huh.
because it's serious. And my mom said it was absolutely because they did not want to be looked at as a negligent church and telling their members like that was a lawsuit. So we can't afford for him to die. And we
Oh
don't
my
want the
gosh.
responsibility because we told you to come here and um yeah, so that feast was trips to the hospital a lot, and my dad was there. They weren't together, but he still went to the feast.
Oh,
And yeah, and he
eek.
babysat us. What? And I'm like, Mom, I'm thinking, Mom. Well, she's like, I need to give Grandma a break. But I'm like, yeah, no,
So you weren't totally free of your dad after the night in the woods. Fuck.
no, because it happened that fall. They were full, and then we have the pastor from our area, Duluth, um, went there, and he thought somehow it could still work. I don't know.
So the church was still trying to patch your parents up?
Yeah.
And I guess you probably don't know this, but like, was there any addressing of his abusive ways?
So my mom had the pastors like sit with them. There's definitely a demonic presence here, and he's just cut off. That's the reason. My mom had to write in detail what went on in the marriage and send it to headquarters, hoping that they'll grant it to her.
Grant the
And
divorce?
mhm. And if they hadn't, I don't know. And she had permission to remarry. Because remember, sometimes people, the unyoked thing, whatever. And like looking back at as an adult, I'm like, all this other stuff wasn't enough. It was the demon influence. Like, oh, um, yeah. So my brother was in the hospital in the Dells in Baraboo, and sometimes Bob would bring us to see him. And he's all along, don't cry, be strong. And I'm scared, like, because he could have died. And I'm holding on to his crib. I'm just like, oh, it was horrible. And and there was prayer requests every day, like in that big tabernacle, like for my
Mhm.
brother. And
I've been to that
oh,
building. That is, and I think it was not even all the way full when I was there in the 90s, because that was like 10,000 people in that big pole shed, right?
and Dave Robinson said that never happened. He actually helped build the site. It he's like that would have been impossible for 10,000 people to be there with all the other. So I don't know. My mom believes it. I don't. Because he talked about the inner workings of the Dell and like there was major fights and conflicts. Um, yeah.
Almost like they were a toxic organization or something, huh?
Yeah, and Mr. Armstrong wanted to stay in like the Devil's Head Hotel, and they're like, "Oh, we can't." But he was fine with it because they gave him the royal treatment. They drank, and like even back then, like there was so much going on. Like nobody stood up to him. Um, then we went back home, and we were living in Minnesota by then, and he went in for a checkup, my brother, and they found water on his brain. So they had to get rid of it. And of course, the cults like do whatever. Like she's got full permission now. And the meds were very strong and death, uh, like disability, blindness, like all of the side effects. And it took my brother's hearing. So
Oh
our life
no.
completely like flipped. And it was one of the most stressful times for me. I felt so sorry for my mom because she had just left. We were like getting a new chance at life, and then this happens. And and then my dad is like, I'm not gonna have a deaf son. Um, like it was a weakness or some sort.
Oh, that's
And
how
then
the
this is
church taught it, though. They really did hit things like that, like being
and this is
weak.
the exactly attributed to some. And this is the kicker. The pastor at the feast, Mr. Gordon, he told Bob will be healed one day. You know that. Because that's what we were fucking taught. And given that hope that everybody that has some, disability is going to be healed. And then to find out, our church just is completely scandalous and it's not likely, it's such a fairy tale. I don't know, that's got to be heartbreaking for him.
Yeah, right.
And my dad even wrote letters to me after the divorce about talking about hearing again.
Did your dad stay with the church even though everything? Okay, because your dad was fully raised in it as well. Yeah?
No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
He was raised Finnish apostolic. And that's when they're like speaking in tongues. And like my mom it was scary. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought snakes out, like those types of things.
Wow,
Um,
okay.
I'm trying to think how it might have been the literature, the plain truth. Yeah, he was the first generation.
Okay, okay. Boy, the
And
church was so good at getting people who didn't have much experience in the world, because as he would do, he'd have the newspaper in one hand and the Bible in the other. And he always used fear things, right? I remember the mushroom cloud, the nuclear mushroom
oh,
cloud on one of the plain truths. And it was like, he had ya, right? It was like the original doom scrolling.
I know. And then I remember the case that had the red button. Like you could just open it and it's all done in 1 second if someone pushes that. That was on the cover of one of them too.
Oof.
I feel like my dad really liked the cults because it aligned with all his beliefs. Because my dad also came from abuse too,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
every type. And he was looking for a sense of belonging away from his family. And yeah, because he didn't really want to be around his family, but it didn't. He didn't make a change in the next generation. So, um, yeah, he was still in the church, and get this, he was in there in the front row crying his eyes out. She left me, and the kids left me. I'm all alone, and like people started hating my mom, blaming my mom, and
Well,
even yeah,
they seem a little predisposed to blame the woman in that environment.
yes, and so much so that Mr. Gordon said we should go to Rapid City that year because we will be met with disdain in the Dells.
Met with disdain. Ugh.
Yeah, like they would not, it would be a cold, especially for my mom. Like I wouldn't have noticed, but she's like, for your mom's sanity, go to Rapid City.
What the heck? Wow. So then how, okay. So then how did life go other than having to kind of avoid your dad at the Feast of Tabernacles? What was that like with your mom and the four of you at your grandparents' house? And like, how long did that situation last?
It was just a month, um,
Oh, okay.
because my mom really didn't want to be there. She wanted independence, and my grandpa really helped her try to find a place. And we moved to Crosby, Minnesota, which is by Brainerd, and
Okay.
we lived there for 2 years. And that's when my mom went through the divorce, and Bob would sometimes visit us. And um, I was constantly in fear that he was gonna like come up and take me back because he did not want my mom to leave. And I am very proud of my mom. She never went back, never was tempted. She was done. And but it was scary because he still had control when he did visit. And one time he took us to a park in a car. And I'm like, he could easily just drive us back to Wisconsin. I'm like thinking, what is my mom thinking? And I don't think my mom, she had a breakdown. I know she did. She was just on autopilot. She didn't think that would happen. And I'm like, because then he was nice and stuff, but then like a bee got in the car and he's mad that we're scared of it. And I'm like, okay, there you are right there. That's who you really are. You haven't changed.
Yep.
And then he one time brought a gun for one of my oldest brother to hold. It's like a 35, I don't know how to, a big gun, 357 Magnum, I think. I don't know. But he's like two. I don't know. It's just like this threat. Like, I'm still here. The violence, he played a lot of mind games.
And you're so clear on it. Like I tell you, I don't have many memories from five and before. I mean, and that's different for every person, obviously, but like you are so clear on these. Have you
I've
done a lot
talked
of
about it
work?
a lot.
Okay, okay.
And every time I've had a memory pop up, I'll ask my mom, and she's like, "You remember that? I remember the color of my sheets, my parents' bedroom sheets, and I know how the living." Because like I also disassociated a lot during abuse, so you're gonna pay attention, you know. But yeah, I could say I remember more of what happened to the others. The sexual
Hmm.
abuse was very, very repressed. It was so normalized. I didn't even think of it as wrong until I had like a guided image session and it just popped up. And I said, it was just crazy. It was, but yeah, I've done a lot of work and I've
Yeah.
talked to my mom tons. Um, and my grandparents, like I have a good memory too. I
Yeah,
do.
I clearly. So were you saying there that that Bob sexually abused you?
Hmm. Yep. And it was so disguised as teaching. Like, because remember Mr. Armstrong's hideous book on sex, which is like, I remember when if the man's waiting and it's not wet enough to enter, danger. Like you guys went over that book, remember? And like his like I we don't need a sexual lesson from you. Like we can go other, but he has to tell us. And so it was in the form of teaching
Oh
and
gosh.
punishing. I was singled out, I feel like because I was the oldest. When I my he'd put my mom in the back seat when I was a toddler and like look at my mom, are you jealous? Like pretty, yeah. Um I, I
So
don't
he was
remember it.
kind of like golden childing you
Oh my
in order
God.
to black sheep your mom? Is that, am I reading that right?
He just tried to let my mom know that I'm more important. I know that my mom said one time he told us to take all the stuff my mom made on the wall because we're going to destroy her. Um,
Oh gosh.
we wouldn't be alive if my mom hadn't left.
Your story is really bringing up how easily a, I don't even know the right word. What would the right word be? I mean, it's some sort of antisocial behavior, but
Oh,
how easily it was able to hide in the confines of that high control group. Like, holy
well,
shit.
my mom did it, and my mom didn't say shit. I mean, was so ingrained. Um, she's like, I knew I had to leave, but she didn't know how. And at the end, my dad wasn't even, our pipes were freezing. There was rats running it. He stopped. We could have been taken away. My mom couldn't mentally go grocery shopping anymore. Like it was really bad. Um,
Okay. Like by the time you were 5, it was all the way to that bad.
yeah. Um, because my mom told me I was mentally, I couldn't even do it anymore. Um, yeah. And Bob made such a huge deal about sex all the time. Everything was sexual. Um, just like normal things. Um, no, that's dirty. Um,
Hmm.
and then like the thing with Barbies, I think my mom was very abused by my dad as well that way. And and also I've seen other members in the church, like the Barbie. It's so bad because their boobs are out to here and they're just gonna want to have sex with the Ken. And I feel like my mom was very sensitive to it because my dad was obsessed with sex, pornography, like would be in the out to eat. He's positioned so he can watch every woman come in. I mean, it's a sickness. Yeah. He's and then we found his stash of pornography in an old car in our yard, and I don't remember, but I know it was a big deal that we found it. Me and my sister, we didn't know what we were looking at, and I just, but yeah, he he came from a long line of abuse like that. It's just disgusting. So, and I've learned a lot about his side of the family, but I've never once felt sorry for him. I felt sorry for his childhood. But then when he died at 50, because he just drank himself to death, his sister, my aunt, is kind of that way. Oh, you children need to put in for a headstone. I'm like, for what? It was a nightmare. She's like, well, Bobby had it rough too. I'm like, what about us? He had a chance to switch that shit around and he didn't. I go, I will not be, nobody did except my sister. My sister seems to be sucked in by that type of thinking. And, but no, hell no.
So you broke the chain.
Yeah, I always, because I had to start therapy first because it was ordered kind of by the church, by SEP people.
Oh,
Um, and I wasn't a camper, but we went to church with them because we lived in Grand Rapids and that's not far from Orr. So
yeah, okay.
um, they would come in the winter and they also ran the church, or ran the church, ran the camp.
Okay, so
But yeah,
now that
they
makes me curious. So you like at 5 you left and then you lived in
sorry, I
another
didn't mean
place
to
with your.
jump.
No, no, it's okay. I want to get to there. But so you had a couple of years with your mom and
Mhm.
then but you're still in the church. So you stayed in the church and you're doing church things all the way till you're a teenager and you could go to the teenage camp, the SEP camp in Orr, Minnesota, which I went to also in like 1994. Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, exactly. So like what were those years like? From 5, 7 to teen.
It was rough. Um, I especially the 2 years when I was like 5 to 7, I um I felt such a huge responsibility to my mother. Um, I would tell on the other kids just so she wouldn't have to stress out about it. Because my sister, she'd still make, she did a lot of crazy stuff. But you know what? Like that's her reaction to things too. But I
Exactly.
felt I don't want my mom to get stressed out. I feel like that's gonna hurt my mom so bad. So I was that child. Um, and I remember my mom being very shut off emotionally. Just just the cult teachings were still there. I mean, none of that changed. It's just that I don't know. I mean, like that's how she was taught to. There wasn't really gentleness. Like I remember receiving hugs from other church members, and that church area was in Brainerd, and they were like so family oriented. It felt like we weren't even in a cult because it was very more liberal. That I don't know. As a kid, I needed that. It was a very family oriented thing, and it really helped my mom too. But my mom, when I was sick or like needing of emotional, she wasn't there. I
Mm.
can't talk about my dad. I can't ask questions about Bob or what happened back there. And if I cry, I am an emotional person, and crying, I'm always having to shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. Um, so I had fun in some sense, but I felt alone a lot,
Yeah. You
and I had
carried
to.
the weight of the world on your shoulders. And it seemed like you were worried about everybody's emotions to the detriment of yourself for so long then.
I did. I'm not trying to make myself out to be a martyr, but it's just true.
But you were put in that position. And it was, I think all of our behaviors are at their core self-protective. And at that time, you must have just seen like if I keep things, chill around me, like that's gonna help me and everybody else too.
And my mom said, I depend on you. So I sometimes had to watch the kids while she ran to the grocery store really quick. And one of our church members came and it was a guy and she's like, do not open the door for anybody. And she was so proud of me that I didn't. I was terrified to disobey my mom, but also like, yeah, I took life very seriously. I felt so old. I felt so much older than a 6. Even like my first grade picture, they can't even get me to smile. That's how, because it was fresh
Oh
out
yeah.
of and my mom taught me kindergarten at home, and they wanted to hold me back, but my mom wanted me to be in school to have my own thing after we left, and
Hmm.
it worked out. But I did feel alone.
So were you in public school for everything? Okay, you were. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. So you were like in the world, but not of the world then? Is that right? How'd that go for you?
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, I liked it, but then the religious stuff, like I used to back then I felt proud that we didn't believe in all these things because I even wrote in my journal like we don't celebrate birthdays. Uh, um, but at the same time, I have glittery trees because we use glitter, and it's just showing that I wasn't ashamed back then. Like my mom said, she's not participating, we're leaving, and um, it was very ingrained in us, and I felt like that was the right thing to do at
Made
that
you
time.
elect, right?
It
God's
did,
chosen and all.
um, and it was nice that we had other kids in the church because, they were local, and I could get through it because I knew they were there. And it's when you're young, you don't even, it's second nature.
Did you feel like it made you different, better, worse, weird, anything compared to kids at public school?
As I grew up, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
That was a big stress point. It was
So,
horrible.
was there ever a point, or when was the point that you went from like, yes, this is normal, this is how we do it, the church says this is how we're good, to like, I don't like being different than the kids at school. Do you recall when that all that happened?
In middle school, um, I was, well, we got bullied on the bus because the neighbors found out, and we kept getting harassed. Like, do you eat rabbit? Do you eat this? Like, so I was just like,
Oh.
it was brutal. And then they knew we didn't celebrate Halloween, and they dressed up and knocked on our door. And of course, my dad had to answer it. Just, we don't celebrate Halloween. I'm like, Dad, you just gave them what they wanted. And then the
Wait,
next day,
this is stepdad, so later, like when
oh,
you're
sorry, yeah, my mom remarried. Yep,
okay, okay, cool. Yeah.
we can go back. Um, but and then we never heard the end of it on the bus the next morning. Um, but I was pretty smart too because we got revenge on him. Did a secret admirer letter, and we watched him waiting for this hot girl to come, and it was us.
Oh, the kid who was making fun of you.
Yeah, the bully. There was because we had friends on our side that didn't, they accepted us,
hmm
and yeah, so I'd find ways to counteract that as much as I could.
I mean, I've said this before. I feel like because the church was so constricting and so limiting, it was like it sort of inspired a whole lot of deviousness. Like you figured out ways, right? I mean, the human spirit will prevail.
When we met for when we lived in Grand Rapids, that's where we eventually moved to. We were sister churches with Duluth, and they're bigger, so we always go there for holy days. And beautiful venue. Like this was like a high ceiling like ballroom. It was gorgeous. But us YU kids, like we were at that age, we're like 14, 15, just sick of this shit. And they had the coffee and water table out. So I dared my friends to go take one of the pictures and go in the toilet and put it back.
Oh,
And then we made sure like all the kids were not drinking, and then we watched the adult men who thinking they're the shit drink toilet water. I know. It's so-
have you ever told that publicly before?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I
All
told
right. So,
well, I've told that in my Facebook groups a long time ago. My survivor groups. I
Mm.
don't care. I don't feel ashamed at all. I don't
I
know
mean,
because I know
you were
it's
surviving, right? Like you were coping with some horrible stuff.
and I wasn't the only one that like he like sure. No, we had like the biggest kick out of it. Um yeah.
Oh, so okay, so
We
you're up in northern Wisconsin, which I will say, like we were we were in San Jose, California, where there was like Jewish people and like all different races and religions, and so like nobody gave a shit that we did what we did. Like
Yeah.
I think every year when my parents gave the letter of like, here's all the things my kids don't do, my teachers were kind of like, all right. But other than that, everyone's like, yeah, we're all different. But I feel like
Hmm.
northern Wisconsin, that's pretty
Or northern
homogeneous.
Minnesota,
Or
and neither
Minnesota, yeah.
all that up way north shit.
Because I moved there later. And yeah, that is a totally different situation up there. So that had to
It's
be,
kind of scary. If you're different, yeah.
yeah. Wow. Okay. So your mother has remarried someone else in the church, it sounds like. Um,
Yeah. Well,
was he okay? Was he a kinder human?
yes. Um, so she met him when we moved back, well, when we moved to Minnesota, um, Grand Rapids area. It was basically she's single, he's single, and he's the prince on a horse who could save this woman with four kids and that she's been through so much, and that's how they got together. And it was very heavily encouraged. Like he was like just hanging meat for all the single women. They all were like trying to get him, and my mom bagged him, which is crazy.
Oh no.
And my mom was like, I don't even want to, but they did. They dated for 2 years, and she got some old women mad at her because, yeah. And my dad was very, very nice, and I don't think he realized that um taking somebody from a nursing home in a wheelchair, he would just be nice, and she took it as like, oh, he wants me.
Wait, nursing
So
home wheelchair?
okay, so this old lady in our church, she was lived at a nursing home, and she needed help like to get rides. And my dad was encouraged because he was single, spokesman's club, all that, to serve the less privileged. And so she ran with it, and she hated my mom. But my dad
Oh.
never, she took it, and my dad, I feel like, was just doing to be nice. He never led her on, but she just like, like, yeah.
Oh, so this older lady begrudged him marrying your mom.
Yeah, and she like did not like my mom.
Oh, that is so funny.
Slim pickings, in a small church. And yeah.
I know when they're telling everybody you have to marry somebody in the church, like,
And like,
well,
oh,
okay, so you're a teenager, you made it to YOU, which was the Worldwide Church of God's youth group. Um, and I remember how cool I felt when I got to be part of the YOU and do, a sock hop like it was 1955. But what did that look like for you? And then how did that start moving toward when the changes were made after Armstrong died? And like, what was that kind of like you becoming a grown up? And also, when did the undoing of church life happen for you?
in middle school, I found journal entries that I hate this cult. I hate that we have to live at this. Like, I can't, I just, you know, ju- and because I was being so bullied because we learned about the Holocaust, and for some reason this bully singled me out and kept saying Jew, Jew, like he was reenacting what they were doing in World War II. And I eventually confronted him years later through Messenger, and I said, I was terrified of you, and I don't know if you know, but I was in a cult, and I was, like you scared me. And he's like, oh, it's probably because, we were taught about the holy, he didn't even spell it right, holy cost. We were calling everybody Jew. No, they weren't. It was scary. So and then one time I remember days of unleavened bread fell during school. Home ec, where I had to make pancakes as a makeup. I just forged that note because I'm not about to bring it to my mom, but it was a huge thing in my mind because I didn't want to get caught. I felt bad for lying, but I'm like, how? I don't want my mom telling the teacher, I didn't want people to know. And I guess I got sick of it. Um, in high school was a lot better. I felt more of myself. And senior year, told my parents, I'm sick of this. I want to go out on Friday nights like normal people do. And they said okay, as long as I
Oh,
still play piano for the church next day, because I was the pianist.
okay.
So I'm like, okay. And I was the most myself that senior year. Um,
What year are we
and so
talking,
that
if you don't mind saying?
it will be 93 to 94.
Okay.
And so I knew I wasn't gonna stay because I asked one of the ministers, I go, as I'm headed into singleness, because like
All
what's my
right.
future?
You were about
A
to be on the
background.
market. Oh
And
no.
I was even terrified to go at SEP. I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. And I was so so for ambassador, hell no. I don't want to be in this shit. And it was scary because they pushed it so much. And
Hmm.
then pushing like the correspondence after you become 18, like that's the next step. And then you go to singles activity and it's like, and I was dreading all of it. And plus, I was getting more and more depressed. It was just affecting me mentally.
Sure.
And so I asked one of the pastors, I said, because I said, I always hear about this excitement and like everybody's so excited. I go, am I supposed to feel excited? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then I knew like, well, this isn't the place for me because I cannot fake excitement. I don't feel any positive in this church. I stayed there a little bit after for being a pianist. But after a while, I'm like, fuck this. I felt bad because it did weigh heavy. It was a responsibility. I was the only music that I knew how to, but, um, and because my mom's like the Saturday after I went out on a Friday night, I didn't care what I looked like anymore at church. So I'd sleep and then just come with wet hair. And my mom be like, Berta, you came in with wet hair. I'm like, I don't care. You all got a pianist still. Like you got the music. That's what matters. Um, and I feel like music did keep me going in there. I had a lot of opportunities musically, and
Hmm.
I am grateful for that. But yeah, 18 after I graduated, um, I did whatever I wanted, basically.
Okay.
And then my parents recognized that. They didn't try to there was an overlap where I was still going to church and I'm like, what's the point? Like I don't, you know, and they were okay with that. And I did go one feast, last feast. I went by myself and my friend. We got a hotel room in the Dells. And that's the first time I drank. I was smoking cigarette. We did whatever we wanted. We even got up during the services and walked out. Like it was a time to just rebel.
I love that you did that
It
like
was
so clearly and so
that was a
intentionally.
bang. I drove. I'm like, fuck, like, you guys getting bored? Yeah. I'm like, let's just do it. And they did. They didn't say. I'm like, what are they gonna do? Yeah. We all smoked cigarettes, and it was like a puff of smoke in the corner. And
So,
go
sorry,
ahead.
does that mean that you were gone and away from the church, not going anymore by the time the 94 like Christmas Eve service had, where Takach basically blew up the entire doctrine?
Yeah, I remember the sermon, and I remember I I have been trying to watch the whole thing because um, everybody felt sorry for Dakash because someone leaked the information early. And I remember
Oh.
it was so cruel to do that. And Mr. Dakash was such a good guy, easing us into this. But I watched the sermon. He's angry as hell. He's like, he's not gentle at all. And he's talking crazy shit about Rod Meredith, who had a splinter, and
Hmm.
like getting mad at the members for just asking natural questions, like, well, you're either gonna believe me like or go to hell. I'm just like, that was not a gentle sermon in my opinion. Um, and I remember like somebody did leak it. I'm like, good for them. Because they probably had it with the abuse and they were in a position to, because that had been in the works for a minute. It wasn't just all of a sudden, you
Yeah,
know.
right.
When Mr. Armstrong was dying, he told the Koch, you're gonna have to change some things. And so the church knew, the upper echelons knew about it, but members didn't. And they
Right.
were even talking about this in the early 80s because I have read David Robinson's book and yeah.
Oh, so they'd
He,
been
and
working
he,
on this.
so he felt bad because they were keeping it from the people. And that's why one of the reasons he wrote his book. Because like what you see and what's really happening are complete opposites,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Sure. I've talked with people who have come out of the church and they've kind of landed in lots of different places spiritually. If you're comfortable sharing, where was your path spiritually once you decided, fuck you, WCG?
I didn't I didn't even think about church for a while. Like I also got kicked out of my home because I don't know. I didn't know that this was the rule that I would be kicked out, but I had like three people over and they were drinking, I wasn't. And I come back and from work, you have 30 days to vacate the premises, give us your key. It was so because I had to set an example for the other kids. If they let me off the hook, then and I was really pissed. I was hurt. I didn't have the money, but they found me an apartment. And like during that time, I felt like, well, I'm finally free. And I did whatever I want. I didn't even think about church. I lived in the world. I went to the community college. I dated interracially my daughter's father. He was black. Um, partied. I didn't, my parents were still going to church, concerned about me, but I didn't go.
And I'll just interject here for the listeners who might not realize that the WCG was very serious about no interracial relationships.
Mhm.
Like it was sort of a late, way too late to the party thing that they even weren't like segregating Black people in church services.
They were like back in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
They had separate, is that, did I misunderstand you?
Oh no, though that's right. Yeah, it's like what was it? We heard that they were keeping a segregated section for Black people to sit in all the
And
way
even the
into the
feast,
70s. Like,
yeah.
eek.
And at Big Sandy, I remember listening to somebody's story, like there was a section for, the black people and yeah, it's very segregated. And
So,
I never saw that because we were in the deaf section at the feast because for my
oh,
brother and
yeah.
everybody like Chicago, like it was diverse. So, and my parents didn't teach that. Like racism was just like they never like made it an issue. So I never thought it was an issue. Um, and I'm grateful for the feast to meet people of a different race. And I was walking around with this guy before church. He's like, everybody's looking at us. I'm like, they are? I mean, he would know. And I'm like, I was not aware of the racism until
Yeah.
I finally looked it up on the painfultruth.com.
I know. I think the church really tried to like hide the things they were ashamed of, right? Like why the alcohol issues were not talked about by the time I was in church, why they didn't talk about race stuff because they had clearly done dirty about that
But it
for
was still
years.
heavily um, indoctrinated in my grandmother and
Oh,
my grandpa, who just being growing up in that time, it was
yeah.
okay. He wasn't in the church. It's just like it's okay to be racist. Um, So I became pregnant and they wouldn't even come in the house like when I visited home when I was pregnant because I had a black child and my grandma wrote me a letter saying he belongs with his people and you with yours and are you fornicating because that's a sin. It was just like heartbreaking. And then when I got pregnant, I told them, you ever say one thing, you're never seeing her again. And they didn't. Because like me and her father before getting pregnant, we faced a lot of racism and harassment for just dating. So yeah. And I wasn't going to church during those times. Those were the times we're talking about. I got pregnant and that changed a lot of things. I
Okay.
moved to St. Cloud and I got pregnant like within that year. I was 20 and I and that's also when the changes really started to roll. Um I got pregnant in 97, but like, the changes didn't happen immediately with different areas.
Right.
Um, but I did feel like the because I still was I was practicing some of the things, not celebrating the holidays. Because it was
Oh.
so, I'm like, that I have to do because that's the right thing to do. And it was devastating to find out that that was a lie and that, oh, now we're going to accept grace. And it was when I watched the Call to Be Free documentary, you know what I'm talking about, where
Yeah,
they're like
yeah.
going on about I was crying because they did not once address how painful it was. And it's all great and all the adults love it, but it was at the only one minister in that documentary. He got really emotional. He's like, my biggest regret is how I raised my children. That was the only emotion
Oh.
I saw. I was devastated. They didn't offer grief counseling or just like, but when I became pregnant, I had moved into a Catholic home, Catholic charities, place for unwed mothers, pregnant girls, and I didn't like it. I mean, they weren't really, the goal for them was for us to get rid of our babies through adoption.
Oh,
And I
okay.
didn't find that out until when I made my choice. And I didn't like Catholic. I knew I'd never go into that because it's so militaristic and against sexist. We have to wait for the father to eat because like he would come and visit us poor pregnant girls. I mean, we lived in a convent. My closet was this big,
Yeah.
and and I started having contractions when I was forced to go to the Christmas Eve service, and I'm like, they if they only knew. Um, so I had my daughter, and I did give her up for adoption. I couldn't do it, so I took her back. It was all legal because they were just considered foster parents, and they give the mother the time to change their mind. And I
Okay.
come back to see all the girls, and they're asking, well, how is adoption? I said it's horrible. I mean, like, and I got chastised for that. And that's not
Oh.
even. I got turned my back. I was so hurt because they should have made me do like childcare classes how to take care of a baby. I got special treatment because I had already picked the parents that was, but I knew how to take care of a baby. And the fact that she was born on Christmas, I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm celebrating her birthday, Christmas, everything. Like that was the tipping point. I'm like, no, she is not gonna live how I live. And my first job, like while I was pregnant, was actually playing piano for a Unitarian church.
Oh.
It wasn't because I just needed the money. I didn't believe, I just knew I could do it for churches. But I also didn't have the best experience because I go, will someone watch her while I'm playing? And oh, no, we couldn't do that. And then the minister came up to me and she's like, if I can save you, my job is like completely worth it. And I'm not I'm very shy. I would have said something today. I'm like, oh, damn. And then I just thought, I wasn't connected with them spiritually. And then I eventually stopped working. Um, I did dabble into when I went to this college down there in St. Cloud,
Hmm.
some of the campus Christian crusade things. I don't know. But it
Oh,
just,
oh,
oh my
yeah, I feel
God.
ya.
Because I thought, oh, I felt like, because I was being told I'm missing something. That hole is God. And I would believe that so much. Like I had to fill the hole. And I,
That there was a song then, wasn't there, in like a Christian rock? There's a God-shaped hole in
oh,
all
geez.
of
Uh,
right?
and
It was programmed into
yeah.
you.
Yeah. And I'm just like, because I was talking to one girl about like I almost had an abortion with my daughter. I went through every step of the way, and immediately I could tell like, okay, this isn't the place for me. I overshared. I'm like, I thought since it's Christian, they wouldn't judge me, but I'm like, I
Oh,
don't need to deal with this. And I just when they saw that they seem so fake. I never seen like actual genuine. I feel like they're just doing it to look good. That's what religion is to me. I don't see an authentic, just being there because you really, it's always like judging. Look at me. I don't know. I went to, I don't even remember, it was some non-denominational, me and my brother, because my brother eventually went to college there. And because I was trying to play piano for them. So like, oh, come on and like what. So we had to stand up because we're the new members. This was crazy. Like they're running around with like sparkly flags up and down the aisles. Like it just like me and my brother are like so opposite of what we grew up in. And then this one boy, like they're doing the sermon and there was a second mic on the stage and this little boy goes up and burps into and they're like, oh Joey, like they knew like he that was typical. And me and my brother were trying so not to laugh. And I didn't get the job because um yeah. But I did find the St. Cloud Church because I felt like I should go the new way and they were doing the new way and I knew some of them.
oh, the
And
new way of worldwide.
hmm
Oh, so what age were you? You linked back up.
yeah, so I was feeling pretty vulnerable after I had my daughter alone and stuff
Of course, of course.
because being pregnant then didn't have such a stigma as it does now. Or
Oh,
that reverse that. I felt ashamed. I felt so ashamed. And like today, it's not, there's a lot more support for that person. And
yeah.
this was like 97. Um, but anyway, yeah. So I thought, well, since I had my daughter, I'm like, well, somehow I thought about church. I have no idea. And I remember the New International Bible was so much easier to read. So like, ooh. So I did go to a service and I'm expecting like this big, exciting feeling to happen. And I'm just like, it's still the same. I mean, they were very nice. They were part of the people that I knew from the past who were very liberal and very loving. They gave me a baby shower and I did attend church events, but I didn't ever feel shame from them, like for not always attending. They're just very warm people. But still, at the center of it is the belief system. And I can't even go along with a new one now, like because that was all about grace. I don't even know what that word means,
Right.
and I'm like, I have to raise my daughter, and I'm just gonna go to school and do that. Um, and like on holidays, Christmas Eve service. Now I don't even do that. Because I never really went out searching. I think the only when I went searching was to go the new way.
Okay,
Um,
sure.
I when I went to all these other churches, it was to perform or, you know, but it wasn't looking to follow their belief system.
Mm-hmm.
I was really sick of it, and yeah, I just did not. It didn't stick, and I was also dealing with some other stuff because I met my dad as an adult,
Oh.
way later on. That was really important to me, and I was also in therapy, and I was seeing things and nobody else was in my family. And it wasn't just the cult, it was just like the abuse, the trauma, and just, you know, but I wanted to face my fears with my dad, Bob. So we went like in 98, 99. My daughter was about 2. And I thought this would bring me clarity and sense of peace and closure. And it really didn't. I met him outside, and he right away says, I was terrified, I was shaking and crying. And he's like, come over here, 'cause I don't want the neighbors to see. I'm like,
Uh,
oh God. I remember now how he was. And I what I went um I went off on him, and I don't even remember what I said, but I wanted to tell him, you fucked up our family. You did things. We had a family friend there for safety. He was a church member, because he knew the whole situation, and he wanted us safe, wanted me safe.
yeah.
And so we go into the little apartment. Basically, I could not sleep that night because I kept dreaming that my dad was in the doorway. And I'm like, and then he had told the church friends when we had left that my uncle had hurt me that way.
Mm.
And so then like that opened up Pandora's box because I thought I had a good handle on all the other abuse. And to find out that that happened, um, that killed me. I feel in a way. It's the worst one.
And was that one that you didn't even remember?
And my mom, she's like, I gotta tell you something. Your friend, our friend, he said something about Uncle, and she said he molested you. And I immediately said, I knew I was right. I'm not crazy. And she had to pull over because I was just beside myself. And yeah, that was a journey in itself. And it's
That
probably still,
situation, sorry, was that a situation they had gaslit you about that happening? Like, was it something you had talked about, but they pushed it off on something else, or you just didn't have
well,
any memory of it?
okay, my mom always told me, because he would threaten, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to the girls. My mom knew all about his sexual perversion, and she thought she had escaped that. She didn't. He was doing it a long time. She didn't. So I never thought he did. But I always had weird sexual thoughts. Like I didn't understand. I was terrified of guys, even though I like guys. I knew I was never going to get married because I was never going to have sex. I was so ashamed of my body. Like I couldn't even kiss somebody. I was terrified. And I didn't know where that was coming from. And yeah, it was a big hang up for me. And I had a lot of therapy, and I didn't exactly have family support. Because we did go back to Ashland one more time after I met my dad because he was dying. And my mom thought it was important for us to all come and like see him one more time.
Mm.
And again, we had the church friend there for safety. And my stepdad was there too. We're all in this apartment, and he's the one gaslighting. I didn't have a concrete memory of sexual abuse, but I have of the others. And my brothers and sister, They're asking like, you did this, you did that. He's like, oh, your mom totally gaslit them. And my stepdad got so mad. He's like, stop lying to them. And like the church friend, he's like, okay, you guys. And it got heated. But after my brother just was sobbing. He's like, thank you to my stepdad for protecting us because he was stringing them along. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I actually, the thought in my head was, so here's Bob still
Mhm.
gaslighting on his fucking deathbed?
Yeah. He knew he was dying, and we went to the funeral. When I had access to his apartment, I scoured that place because I wanted to find the sexual, like the pornography. But I found out that he had someone cleaning out before because he is very, very smart. He
Oof.
left my his old wedding ring on the table. He put my letters right next to his bed. It was at all the church literature was on the coffee table. He was still following it. Yeah,
Oh, that makes me feel gross.
it was gross. Um, but I did have a good moment there. Because we did go to my aunt or my uncle Jerry and Aunt June's house because I had questions.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody, like even before we went, like everyone's happy. I don't feel happy. I felt there's something wrong. Something's wrong, and they're just ignoring it. And so we went over to my uncle's, and we're passing around these photo albums, and we were talking about like the accusation of him molesting me. And then, I don't think he did. We weren't with him that much. And I feel like my dad was projecting.
Oh,
So my
shit.
aunt, everybody's about to leave. My aunt pulls me to the side. She's like, "You're not getting the answers, are you?" And I said, "No." And she was sweet enough in her endangered her own life was abusive.
Oh.
And we talked for in the bedroom about 2 hours, the history of my family on the dad's side, and that how she had been molested by my great uncle. Um, so much stuff. And I have to drive home. I have to drive back to the hotel and it's dark, like freaking out because it was like a nightmare what she told me. But I'm glad she told me because I'm like, I knew it. And she said, and even then I didn't have it was before the concrete memory, but I'm like, it all makes sense. And she saw as another survivor to another, she saw it. And I'm so glad she saw it
Mm-hmm.
because it like, I'm not crazy. I'm not, these thoughts aren't coming from just anywhere.
Ugh.
Mm.
I'm sure you've heard the idea of like the body keeping the score about these things, right? And like everything you're saying is like just lighting up me, just recognizing like what that must have felt like to have been gaslit for so long, to know it was wrong, to know
Yeah.
something wasn't okay in these places, in
Yeah.
these times with these people, and then to have it validated. My gosh.
And so then I'm dealing with like a new set of memories because like there was stuff I like, why? And now it like, and that's when I asked my mom, did this happen? Did this happen? I would have dreams like remembering. Um, I got books. I tried to get counseling for it because I wanted to get over it, to make sense of it. And that's just a whole new monster I had to deal with. And I didn't even see how heavily sexual it was. And I do think the cult went hand in hand with that. I really do. There
Yeah.
was a lot of shit going on with other people, and everybody loved my dad. He was just so good looking. And the finally the friend that came with us with the visits, he had had enough, and he said he needs to be disfellowshipped because they didn't disfellowship. Fellowship him. Yeah. Yeah. and he's making it all about him and he's the victim and he's like, I've had enough of this. He's like crying his eyes out in church. And after my friend found out, I don't know. Well, he was already dead, but I don't know. But at some point, he's like, get him out. He should not be here. And he was like an elder deacon, so he had like some authority.
Gross.
Yeah.
Way too much
Um,
of that kind of behavior got a pass in that church.
yeah.
Mm.
Um, and so like my SAP experience, I guess I was terrified to go. I feel I was terrified to leave home to do anything because I didn't feel like I was ready and they pushed, oh yeah, it's a good thing you go to SAP. You're gonna grow up. And I was scared. And then um it wasn't a horrible experience, but one of the girls in my dorm started remembering or telling us about what her dad was doing to her. And I'm 14 and I was mad at her, but I reacted to it too. I went like crazy. I'm like, what am I freaking out for? Like, it's her story.
You were mad at her.
I was mad at her because it reminded me of me. Like, but I felt sorry for her. But like, I thought she made it all about her, and like, I didn't fully believe her, and I just like, this is weird. Why is this happening? Like, it's just weird, and everybody was nice to her, and I don't know, it just was triggering. I didn't know what to do with it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's not her
I think
fault.
I think there's so much emotional regulation that we learn in our early years or should learn. And boy, that's a Herculean effort to rebuild that for ourselves if that got messed up for us, you know?
And I think she felt safe enough to tell. I don't think she was lying.
No,
I
I
just
don't.
don't, because also her behavior matched. Something was off.
Hmm. I mean, I just don't think that's a situation that people go making up stories about.
No. And I just never felt like I fit in at camp. I was socially awkward. I was shy, and there's so much. Always seemed like everybody from Texas was there, and they all knew each other. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
and I was already did not like the church's rules. The Christian living classes. I hated all of that. And we were taught to be little soldiers. It's just a grooming thing to become adult members. And I don't look at SEP like other people do. Like, it was amazing. And it's tainted for me because I also
Yeah.
know of sexual abuse that happens at the camp. And and
Shocker.
Takach, yeah, Takach, didn't do nothing. He tried to separate the parents from it. I can't
Oh,
look at it as when it's tainted with abuse. I can't. How can you? It's like saying there's good parts of the Holocaust. I mean, it's
there's the
just,
statement. Yeah.
and I got kicked out of the SCP group because they just love the glory days and they do not want to see anything to dissuade. I'm like, but that was a cult right there. You miss it? Like, do you miss the cult too? Because it was a wonderful bonding experience. Yeah, but it was based on a fraud. We didn't choose it. We were kids. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
understand that. Maybe because I have a different experience.
So are you saying that there's like online groups that were people like having reunions of their SEP camp days? Like,
Yeah,
yay,
they
the
were
church?
reminiscent SCP and UI alumni. And they made it quite clear that um these people that say negative things about the camp are not welcome. And
Oh,
yeah, I got kicked out. This is the second time I got kicked out.
they're just continuing the same like put on your happy face bullshit that the church did.
They are. I'm like, I don't see the difference. And also, some people are like me and have been very honest. And he got like the beating of his life on the the canoe trip. So it wasn't like all roses. It really wasn't. if you fell in line, it was. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and
That's exactly it.
the health food shit, that store sold frozen yogurt and carob. It was so healthy. I hated yogurt. So I mean, right then and there, and for me, I always noticed we never got enough to eat. The guys were hungry. After all the money that you charge the parents, and you don't have enough to feed us, like they would go hungry. And they would like, oh, you can only one time do this out. You can't have seconds. And we did like, like some strenuous activities. We're growing. We need food.
Th-
Ridiculous.
Their food control was over the top for sure. I mean, right down to Day of Atonement, no food and water for 24 hours, right? Like all of it. They knew. They knew you grab them by the genitalia and control their sexuality. You grab them by their stomachs and control their food. Ooh, you hit those most basic human, the animals that we are, and they had us. It's terrible.
They had my parents, not
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I know. You've broken free. Okay, so do you
I mean,
identify
even
as anything now? Like any religion or anything or belief
no,
system?
I believe there's something greater than us because when I look at nature, somebody created that. I'm not going to go dive into the semantics. I'm good with just that. I don't know if there's a God. I don't care if there's a God. I don't
Yeah.
care if I'm saved by Jesus. I want to be free to do whatever I want. And I can still be a good person and have a moral code without being in a church. And that was like a hard thing for me to like, oh, you're bad. It's not black and white. Um, I I don't need religion to define me.
Yeah,
And I was
absolutely.
sick of being told what to do. I have an issue with authority. I do.
I think I do too. And I'm always like, does that make me bad? Because, like, it isn't just the church that wants to be in authority over me.
When you are forced to do something and you hate it, it just you internalize it and I had a lot of anger and I felt suicidal.
Mm.
I tried to hold my breath as hard as I could in church. I told my mom I'm gonna kill myself. Oh, Roberta, you're just angry. Like I was very depressed.
Oh, no. And see, I think today that is given a lot more credence than back then. Boy, they didn't care for kids at all. That makes me so upset. How,
They
like,
really didn't.
I mean, ageist doesn't even like describe it. It's like removing the humanness of children.
Yeah. When my parents, and that's how I felt. I remember my mom telling me, God, your husband, their wife, and then kids. So I'm like, okay, we're number three. And basically, we
Oh,
didn't have a
yeah.
choice. We were just like, do it or you're gonna get spanked. And I, I feel like I was privy to things about my both of my Bob and my mom and my stepdad and my mom. Their relationship that should have been like, I don't want to see some of that. It was so sexually, I guess. Um, but it's like, oh, we're having a never mind that. Um, they didn't consider that we had came from an abusive father and had a break with my mom, and we felt like we lost my mom again because
Mm.
he was a stepdad was given the authority, and it was all about my mom. It really was, and the marriage, and there was no fair counseling or anything for the kids.
Hmm.
And my mom says, looking back, what were we thinking? Like, how could they just like focus on the marriage and not how what the kids went through? And
Yeah,
I was scared he was going to abuse me. I was,
of
and
course.
I started thinking weird thoughts about him. Like, why am I thinking about like that? Because I didn't have a memory, but I just felt off. But I was able to tell him as an adult, like, thank you for restoring my faith. Like in a parent, a male,
Yeah.
a father, that you didn't look at me that way. You never once did that. Um, I felt like that was important. I'm glad I said it. because he's not here anymore.
Sure. I'm really glad that you got to have that more positive interaction and someone who, at least seems to have honored your autonomy.
And for what he did for my daughter too, because she had basically had an absent father. He took grandpa being grandpa seriously. He was there from day one.
Aw. Yeah, man.
And I've been reading that Child Reading book, and it's by Garner Ted, and
Ew.
it's insane. And it makes me very sad. And also, like, a lot of things make sense now why I wasn't allowed to pretend make believe, because that's when the devil gets in. I mean,
Oh,
oh,
are you
and the
serious?
abuse. Yeah, I remember that, and I'm rereading it because and and somebody like Garner Ted talking about child rearing and talking about the sick world. He was the sick world, and
Yes.
at least five, six like tools what to do with it. Like make sure you get the skin out of the diaper so they can feel it, and five, six times. Like if they don't do it again, five, six times,
Of
and
hitting
don't leave
them?
them like.
Ugh.
And
When they're
he's
in a
like,
diaper. Like he
yeah, but you
advocated
have,
for spanking babies.
oh yeah,
They were
they're inherently
disgusting.
self. It it needs to be discussed because I'm just like, what the hell? It's horrible. It's 150 pages of it. He goes through babies all the way up to I don't know, probably teenagers, adulthood, and his claims of like, if you do this, you have model citizens. We know how corporate punishment doesn't do that, but
Mm-mm.
but my mom sucked it in. So many parents sucked it in.
Yep. This is making me thank my lucky stars. I'll just say that because we weren't allowed to say that. That my mom read Dr. Spock, which I know by today's standards probably wasn't awesome, but there was definitely things in there that I can see the difference where she deviated from that line the church was putting forth. And I am
My
thankful for that.
She did have other sources. She said I got the worst of it, the most pure child rearing because I was the oldest.
Yep, you and me both, sister, for sure. To kind of round out what we've talked about so far, I know that in amongst the abuse and the strict church rules, there was also the doctrine, which adds another like existential layer of fear onto
Mhm.
what you could identify very like materially. There was like the fear of the eternal stuff. So like how do you think of all of the fear pieces um in the modern moment or in the current moment?
Well, like right now when stuff looks, because other people, like it's the end of the world, apocalypse is supposed to have been happen like so many times, and not
Mhm.
just in our splinters, just in general.
Yep.
I My mind tends to go there because I think of what if worldwide was true all along, and I'm like, don't think like that, but I can't, and I'm like, but I also know that he prophesied so many dates in the 70s and it didn't happen. Other people have too, but that fear, because I was terrified of being left behind and I
Mhm.
didn't understand the logic of getting us all to leave at the same time. Because I said, what if, what if like we're not home? I thought he was going to do it through the emergency broadcast system, like where it's on TV, because that's the only thing I could think of where everybody could see it. So what if we had our TV off? Like and then what if I'm at school and they get the call and I'm left behind? Because that that world we were left behind in was hell. It was like you know, and then I didn't understand. It says on the wings of a golden eagle. I said, how are we all gonna fit on it?
Well, okay, I'm
I took
glad
it
you're bringing that up because I've heard
I
people
took it
say, "Oh,
literal.
we're going to take a plane to Petra," was what I had heard. And I think, or I've heard other members say that. I feel like it was
Hmm.
so nebulous. It would like by the mid 80s where I would have been cognizant of it, it was like left really nebulous, right? Where I had no idea. I just thought it'd be like magicked there or something. But like people literally thought that wings of an eagle meant they're going to get on an airplane.
Yeah, because like the adults interpreted that. I did it. I mean, maybe other because I know my friend, she's like, we can't even afford plane tickets. How are we going to be saved? Like all the kids are thinking these logistical things, and
I
we're
love
like,
the logic of the
okay.
kids. It's wonderful.
I am grateful for the peers and the people that I grew up with because they didn't care about the church either. So I
Yeah.
had a good company. Um, Yeah, and I'm still friends with those people today. Not so
Oh,
much anybody else, but they were free thinkers and very opposite of what I was taught, but we're still friends
oh,
because
that's good.
they didn't take it that seriously. I'm
Hmm.
really glad they didn't.
Were you afraid of not growing up? Because for me, that was the whole thing, is I was told I wouldn't actually get to be an adult.
I just I didn't see the point of college. I didn't see the point of doing anything long lasting because God's coming back anyway, and we're gonna teach, like we're gonna have power. I subconsciously believe that, so I didn't look at college as a big deal. I'm like, it's just worldly. Um, I don't know. I did take a lot of stuff seriously in my adult life about job training. I don't know where my mind was. Like, I didn't sink in like this is actually real life. Like this it was like I had disassociated so much just from all the doctrines that I think subconsciously, even though I left, it's still in you.
Yeah.
It's on learning. And I didn't realize how much the cult affected me until much later, in my 30s. When my ex actually, he didn't believe in God, and that brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, oh, this is never going to work because God has to be the center of your relationship. And I was I called my mom. I'm like, you know, she's like, well, you've been taught, you know. And I'm like, well, that's not a helpful answer, mom, because I really don't know. And that's when I found the survivor groups on Facebook. Um,
Okay.
and they were like my um, the cult survivor group, and then Herbert Armstrong. There was another one, but that one turned, I got kicked out. And
You keep getting yourself in trouble with all your truth telling. That's what I notice about this
I know.
conversation.
And someone's like, you're just like the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes. You're the one that pointed out that he was naked. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I believe in the truth. I don't believe in, I don't know. I wasn't, so they let me talk in depth about so much stuff, my experience, and they validated so much. And then I just started learning, and that was probably like 10 years ago. And they're like, my good friends, even though we've never met, but we share a bond. And like I remember one guy, I was having a bad day. He got DM me a video, and we just always try to make each other laugh. Like they get it.
Yeah.
You don't have, you know what I mean? And it can't be a cult, but you know what I mean? Like, well, that could be another cult, but it's just nice.
Right.
It's a home base to touch when nobody else gets it, and that you don't have to explain, and we share about like what did I would be like, hey brethren, what are you doing this Sabbath? Happy Sabbath. And we're talking about all the ways we're sinning. And it's just really
That sounds
you
very
have to laugh.
healing. Yeah.
It's very healing. Like we laugh a lot. And then we talked about the sugar factor and the um this lady's like, that was a very good diet and I still follow it to this day. And I'm like, oh, so we had like trolls and it was crazy. But it's settled down a lot more and there's constantly new members because it's still going on. From the split, someone who just left a splinter, stuff like that.
Ooh, yeah.
And I feel like it's important for me to speak on it and bring stuff that I experienced with because I know there's other people that did and I want to give them hope that,
Absolutely.
you know, I almost ended my life. It's just a culmination of things. And like whatever it takes, like it's okay. And I want to be able to bring them to the support groups and survivors when they don't even know what to say. They can read. I used to read a lot of people's stories and just, you're not crazy. you know?
Ooh,
And
that's a
it's,
good message to remind people that, like, this is a thing that happened to you. You're not bad. You're not crazy. You didn't imagine it.
mhm.
Yeah.
And actually your reaction's pretty normal. Like to an abnormal thing, like trauma. And when we like disassociate, that's not abnormal. That's how we survive. We're reacting to something that's backwards or like something like this totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are fucked up, not us.
Right. And they spent so much time conditioning us to think we were bad and sinful and fucked up.
I
Wow.
do I do remember my YES teacher turned out to be a pedophile in our church. And my grandma and my mom were talking about it at the feast, and I already knew what he had done. They were trying to like keep it hidden. I just straight up asked her because I always had a sense of sexual impropriety. And he was welcomed back into the church.
Oh,
He went to prison. Um, yeah, it's insane. And abusers, I've met people that families are like mine, like the dad was a ass and they're still reeling from it to this day. You know, I'm not
yeah.
the only one because I've watched enough cult documentaries and with the experts, they say like when you got a man in control of the women, I mean, it's just a breeding ground. It's gonna happen. He has
Yes.
all the control. It just, and he gets off on it. He's gonna do it more and more. And it's just a sick cycle. And yeah, that's watching a lot of cult documentaries is like sounds crazy, but it's very healing.
I get it. I totally get it. Well, right.
I'm
And
like,
it's
oh,
like,
a new one.
not only does it breed it, that kind of behavior, but I think it's attractive to people who have those issues, because it becomes a safe haven for it, unfortunately. Those high control groups where you can put on your happy face, be charming, and all of a sudden, no one can believe this thing because no, they're a paragon of the community.
Yeah, I remember um when I was really little in Wisconsin, we had some type of camping thing for the church, and some domestic dispute happened. I mean, it was very, I don't know, it wasn't very hidden. Like there was rumors, like I mean, I think it was just that congregation. I feel like every area is different, but we
Hmm.
knew each other. We part like they drank a lot. Like just drank while they're building something, drank when they did this. Like it's just like common. And then I'm holding a beer can when I'm two, like it's empty, but that was the culture.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's okay because Mr. Armstrong says it's okay.
Right.
I mean, every night to be remembered, like, yeah, just it's an icky feeling too. It's just like because adults are out of control.
Right. And they were kind of like relying on the control of the church to keep their uncontrolled selves in some sort of containment, I suppose.
Hmm.
Ha. I mean, thankfully, since those days, like not only, well, not that those things don't still exist, but society as a whole, like we've figured out a whole lot more about people and our brains and how we interact and what high control looks like and, all of that. So, like, in theory, we should have a much better handle on it all now and be able to address these things. But damn, that was some shit you went through, Roberta.
Yeah, I mean, and then just like the regular stuff, like the mental, just because like our family was a pillar, which meant we did everything by the book.
Yeah.
There's this snitch culture. If someone was working on the Sabbath, someone's having sex before marriage, so everybody knows about it.
Oh,
Um, we had to be examples. I remember being told to be we're examples. And
Did
yeah, I
you get
remember
more of
us.
that as the oldest child too? That you had to be an example to your younger siblings? Yep, I know that one.
And it's even written in there. Like there's more responsibility because you're the oldest. That is one of your response. And heaven forbid if I was a male oldest, that's like you're the next man of the house. And there's
Hmm.
a lot of pressure on kids.
Yeah.
All of it. YES, YOU, SEP, all grooming. All grooming.
Yeah.
YES stopped being fun when you could connect the dots and color and you had to start memorizing scriptures.
Well, cheers to being out of high control groups, huh?
Yeah, I still like right now, I just want to be free. I just want to be happy, just simple things, and still love people and still try to do good. But, you know, I can still be rebellious and it can be whatever.
Good.
Like we're all sinners and we're all human. And I always tell my mom, well, you can break the rules if you know them. Like, no. But I did go through some stages where I just like, yeah, but
It's
I,
okay.
yeah. And I really like working with kids because it makes me feel like reading that child rearing book and then looking at these babies, like, how could you do that to them? They're,
How could they?
oh, although, yeah, it was straight from a baby. Um, Calling it the selfish child.
Ugh.
And I remember feeling that feeling with my daughter. And it was a very overwhelming feeling like I, her, I'm responsible for her. Like I could really fuck it up, just knowing you. And she would still come to me, you know, and that's like, I didn't want my daughter raised that way. And I really tried not to. I didn't pressure her about religion. She, you know, I, I didn't really know. So what am I going to tell her?
Yeah,
I
right?
just the golden rules in life and like I did say the Ten Commandments and I do believe in Jesus like as his behavior. I don't know if he's real. I doubt it. I don't know. But
Sure.
like
Our like
if you're trying
cultural
to be a
idea of him, you mean? Yeah, that's fair.
and he's basically accepting of everyone. And that's what I wanted to like teach her. I would like if anybody was interested, it was more Jesus because that was like some real shit. And he flipped tables. I mean,
I like
so
that you picked
I
up
liked
on that
that.
bit. Yeah.
That was like an exciting part of the Bible and Judas, and it was like I don't know, like because yeah, we the Old Testament and throwing all that shit in there, like just insane.
They were very Old Testament punitive focused. Yeah, right. I mean, I think that's why I fell into evangelicalism because the Jesus they talked about, was like, as we say, sunshine and rainbows out your ass compared to the Yahweh character we learned about. So, of course, it seemed like that might be nice. But yeah,
I guess when you don't have like a stable, emotional, like nurturing environment, and you're just like I didn't. There's no affection and stuff. You can still find it in other people outside of your family. It doesn't have to be your family. I'm not saying, but because I've had to make some hard decisions when it comes to my family about boundaries because of stuff that has happened. I still love them, but I'm also prioritizing myself, and I feel like that's for people. It's okay to protect. It's not being selfish. Just not being selfish to have a birthday to celebrate your life is not selfish to just love yourself. Because if you don't, how are you gonna love other people? Like you are important, and I'm still like learning that. And I want to tell people that. You are, no matter what, like, you'll go with your gut too. Like, it didn't steer me wrong. When I didn't listen to it is when I went to hell.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Well, here's a big heart for you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story. And I really appreciated your encouraging words there at the end because I think that's so true. And it doesn't have to be a doomsday cult that someone went through in order to have experienced that emotional loss or emotional damage. And it's really important, I think, to have heard your story and to recognize that you were able to find that love for yourself. So I really appreciate you saying that.
yeah, because it really was separate. Like, we left an abusive situation. We didn't leave the cult.
Yeah,
It, in a lot, so it's a lot to unwrap and it's a lot to heal from.
sure is.
So, but there's support out there. There's
For
support
sure.
out there for people.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel and sharing your story and your journey. And I really appreciate the insight that you've given into the WCG as well as abusive family systems and how they kind of operate the same way. Like and subscribe. If you want to do it too, you can do it.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Ditto.